the boy everyone called an alien because he couldn't string two words together without stuttering, grew up to become the most universally loved comedian alive. But behind every rubber-faced grin of Mr. Bean was a man paying a heavy emotional price that almost nobody knew about. Rowan Atkinson discovered something strange very early. The moment he slipped into a character, his lifelong stutter vanished completely. Only then. Only on stage. Only when he stopped being Rowan. Every single episode of Mr. Bean, every silent grimace, every perfectly timed disaster left him drained, hollow, and counting the minutes until he could go home. He has called the character punishing, exhausting, and something I never really enjoyed doing. The man who made the entire planet laugh for decades has repeatedly said he often felt like a fraud wearing someone else's face. Now, at 70 years old, Rowan Sebastian Atkinson is finally letting the world see the scars his childhood left behind and how a broken little boy turned unimaginable pain into timeless comedy. Rowan Sebastian Atkinson was born on the cold morning of January 6, 1955, in the small steel town of Consett, County Durham, Northern England. He was the youngest of four boys in a strict, church-going farming family. Tragedy hit before Rowan could even walk. His eldest brother, Paul, died in infancy, leaving a shadow that hung over the house forever. Only three brothers remained: Rodney, Rupert, and little Rowan. Rodney would later become a respected economist and came within a whisker of leading the UK Independence Party in 2000. The Atkinsons were not a loud or theatrical family. Life revolved around discipline, homework, church on Sundays, and helping on the family chicken farm. The idea that the quietest son would one day make a living falling over and pulling faces for a living would have seemed insane to everyone who knew them. When Rowan was about 5, the stuttering began. It wasn't mild. It was crippling. Words got stuck, repeated, exploded out, or simply refused to come. School became a daily battlefield. He was sent to Durham Chorister School, an ancient, prestigious choir school whose alumni include future prime ministers and bishops. One of those younger pupils 2 years below him was a confident boy named Tony Blair, who decades later would run the country. Even Tony remembered how vicious the bullying was. Rowan's face was unusually expressive, almost elastic, and his speech made him an easy target. Classmates nicknamed him Alien, mimicked him cruelly, and left him eating lunch alone day after day. Canon John Grove, a teacher at the school, later described him as painfully shy, with a rubbery face that seemed to belong in cartoons, and a speech impediment that broke your heart. A 2007 article in The Independent painted a grim picture of what Rowan endured, but something miraculous happened whenever he stepped onto a stage. The stutter evaporated. Completely. For the first time in his life, Rowan felt free. The very thing that tortured him in real life became the key that unlocked his genius. Despite everything, he was brilliant at science. He aced his A-levels in physics, chemistry, and maths, then won a place at Newcastle University at just 18 to study electrical and electronic engineering. Most people assumed he was destined for a quiet laboratory somewhere. He graduated with a first-class degree in 1975 at the age of 20, then followed his father's footsteps straight to the Queen's College, Oxford, for a master's. His research was hardcore, self-tuning adaptive control systems, the kind of thing that makes normal people's eyes glaze over. He published a serious academic thesis in 1978 and even started a PhD. But Oxford also had a thriving comedy scene. And that changed everything. In 1975, he joined the Oxford University Dramatic Society and a sketch troupe called it Cetrus. That's where, in early 1976, he met a lanky young writer named Richard Curtis. Richard still remembers the first time he saw Rowan perform. There was this awkward, quiet guy standing in the corner looking like he didn't belong, until he opened his mouth and did a sketch about a man driving while simultaneously miming an entirely different action with his body. Richard's jaw hit the floor. He turned to a friend and said, "That's the funniest man I've ever seen in my life." In August 1976, Rowan took the Oxford Review to the Edinburgh Fringe for the first time. It was a triumph. Suddenly the path was clear. Engineering was never going to be enough. He finished and published his master's thesis in 1978, but by then comedy had swallowed him whole. That technical brain never went away, though. He became one of the very first celebrities to drive hybrid and electric cars, long before it was fashionable. He bought his first hybrid a full 18 years before 2023, and his first fully electric car 9 years before that. Later, he would use that same knowledge to write controversial articles questioning green tech claims. But that's a story for another day. 1979 brought his first proper break, a BBC Radio 3 series called The Atkinson People. He played a parade of bizarre characters with writing help from Richard Curtis and production by Griff Rhys-Jones. It was clever, surreal, and recorded in beautiful stereo, but it aired in a terrible time slot, and hardly anyone heard it. Still, critics sat up and took notice. Between 1978 and 1979, television kept slamming doors in his face. Auditions made his stutter worse, rejections piled up, and he sank into real depression. He seriously considered quitting and going back to engineering. Then came the life-changing realization. When he fully became someone else, the stutter disappeared. Characters could speak perfectly. Rowan didn't have to. He kept honing his craft on radio with old Oxford friends like Angus Deaton, who later popped up in Mr. Bean and Blackadder. In 1979, aged 24, he returned to Edinburgh with an almost wordless show inspired by Buster Keaton and Jacques Tati. He even helped build the stage himself at the new theater. Some audiences walked out confused. Others recognized they were watching a master in the making. That same year, he shot a TV pilot called Canned Laughter, playing multiple roles, including a very early version of the character that would become Mr. Bean. It didn't get picked up, but he was getting closer. By the time he appeared on the chat show Wogan in 1980, aged 25, he had learned to control the stutter through total immersion in character. The shy boy was disappearing. Something bigger was being born. Then, in 1979, the BBC finally gave him a shot on a new sketch show called Not the 9 O'Clock News. The first episode was delayed by a general election and finally aired in October. Almost nobody watched. Critics slaughtered it. One reviewer said it was the worst half hour of television he'd ever seen. But the BBC controller loved it and ordered a second series immediately. Rowan starred alongside Pamela Stephenson, Mel Smith, and Griff Rhys-Jones. Behind the scenes, it was chaos. Budgets were slashed so badly they started joking about it on air, and writer Chris Langham was fired after Series 1 despite Rowan fighting tooth and nail to keep him. Then came the sketch that changed everything, Gerald the Gorilla. Rowan, in a gorilla suit, delivered the immortal line, "Wild?" I was absolutely livid. The studio audience lost their minds. The sketch became so famous that real primatologists still use the phrase "a flange of baboons" as an in-joke. It won awards and proved Rowan could do physical comedy better than almost anyone alive. In 1981, the cast somehow scored a top 20 hit single with the song "I Like Trucking." Rowan actually drove the real articulated lorry in the video because he held a proper HGV license. But by 1982, the pressure and exhaustion became too much. Instead of milking the cash cow, the entire team walked away at the height of their fame. Rowan, battling severe anxiety, jumped straight into his next project, Blackadder. Co-written with Richard Curtis and launched on June 15, 1983. The first series was insanely ambitious, shot on location at Alnwick Castle with horses, huge sets, and massive costumes. It went wildly over budget, got mediocre reviews, and nearly got canceled. Only an international Emmy saved it. Series 2 in 1986 was a total reinvention, shot cheaply in a studio, co-written by the ferocious Ben Elton and starring Miranda Richardson as a gloriously childish Queenie. Rowan's Edmund Blackadder became the sarcastic, scheming anti-hero we all know and love, while Tony Robinson's Baldric turned into the lovable idiot. The final series, Blackadder Goes Forth, 1989, set in the trenches of World War I, is regularly voted one of the greatest British sitcoms ever made. Its last scene, soldiers going over the top in slow motion to the sound of gentle piano, still reduces grown adults to tears. And then, on New Year's Day 1990, Mr. Bean was born. The first episode drew nearly 14 million viewers in the UK alone. Because it was almost entirely silent, it sold to 245 territories and became a genuine global phenomenon. One episode was watched by 18.74 million British viewers, the third highest sitcom audience ever recorded. But for Rowan, it was hell. He has said over and over that playing Bean was stressful to the point of pain, that he never enjoyed it, and that he always looked forward to the end of the shooting day. The 1997 movie grossed over $251 million worldwide, yet only increased the pressure. In 2002, he cleverly moved the character to animation, so he only had to record the voice, sparing his body and mind. His last major live Bean performance was the 2012 London Olympics opening ceremony, watched by nearly 1 billion people worldwide. It left him exhausted for weeks. He has popped up in countless other classics. The Bumbling Priest in 4 Weddings and a Funeral, the 3 Johnny English spy spoofs, which together made over $500 million, and even the voice of Zazu in The Lion King, a job he hated, but which became iconic. In private life, he married makeup artist Sinetra Sastry in 1990. Stephen Fry was best man. They had 2 children, Lily and Benjamin, and were together 24 years before separating in 2014 and divorcing in 2015. He soon began a relationship with actress Louise Ford, 27 years his junior. They had a daughter, Isla, in 2017 when Rowan was 6'2". In 2001, he saved his family's lives when the pilot of their private plane passed out mid-flight over Kenya. Rowan, who had never flown a plane, took the controls and kept it steady until the pilot woke up. In 2012, he gave a powerful speech in Parliament defending free speech that helped change British law. In 2023, he shocked the Green movement by writing in The Guardian that he felt duped by electric cars despite being one of the earliest celebrity adopters. That on January 6, 2025, Rowan Atkinson turned 70. The official Mr. Bean YouTube channel now has over 35 million subscribers and more than 12 billion views. Comedy schools literally teach the Atkinson method of visual storytelling. Many call him the 21st century Charlie Chaplin. And in 2024, the animated series finally confirmed the decades-old fan theory. Mr. Bean actually is an alien who fell to Earth. Rowan still battles self-doubt every single day. He still questions whether he deserves any of it. But for billions of people around the world who grew up laughing at a strange man with a teddy bear and a green mini, there is no doubt at all. A broken little boy who couldn't speak turned silence into the loudest laughter the world has ever known.